Shalom everybody, welcome back. We have insights in the Parsha of the week, Parshat Shemini, which deals with the sudden death of Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron Kohen. Various reasons are given, both in the verses and in the teachings of the sages. The Pasuk says clearly that they offered a foreign fire, Esh Zara. They offered the Ketoret when they were not commanded to do so, and they entered into the Holy of Holies with the Ketoret. Okay? Rashi also brings down that they were not married. Number two, that they were shtuye yain, that they drank alcohol, beverage, wine. And number three, also that they ruled the halacha in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. All four of these reasons are given for why Nadav and Avihu were burnt. Their neshamas were burnt, their bodies were intact, but like two holy fires, spiritual fires, entered their nostrils and burnt the neshama from within, and they lay there dead. Okay? So there's a lot that Rav Nosson writes about the idea of Nadav and Avihu and its representation. Let's go into these things, number one, step by step. The idea that they weren't married, Rav Nosson explains, the whole idea of marriage is to balance a man. The tendency of every man, the tendency of a person who has knowledge, is to pursue, to advance, to run, to come closer, to learn more, to advance more. Okay? However, Rabbi Nachman teaches lesson 24, the secret of knowledge is dafka, specifically attained by halting, by stopping and having the mind settled. To have the mind settled requires you to take a break and to stop. Once the mind is settled, then it's able to become a vessel to perceive within it the infinite light, which is the highest levels of attainable or unattainable wisdom, which a person can technically grasp and perceive. But if a person's always in running mode to advance and advance, so it's very hard for that to happen. So from heaven, a person needs a halt. In marriage, the job of the woman, she's called Eshet Chayil Ateret Bala. It's a verse from Proverbs, Mishlei. Don't get mixed up with the verse Eshet Chayil from Friday night, which is also from Proverbs. But there's another verse which goes, a woman of valor is the crown of her husband. So Rav Nosson points out, crown, Ateret, crown corresponds to the quasi-super sphere called Keter, which serves as the interface between mankind and the infinite light. What the Keter does is it pushes back people. It pushes people back whose minds are running to perceive and advance and perceive and perceive. The Keter puts them on a halt in order to have their mind settled. And once the mind is settled, then a person can perceive the infinite light. So the verse is reading, Rav Nosson explains that a woman of valor, her job is to put her husband on halt in order that the halt should allow him to stop, have his mind settled, and by the mind being settled to, yes, perceive a glimpse of the infinite light, a glimpse of what he's running after to perceive. Okay, that's why it's such a holy role of a wife, of a marriage. And this is what Nadav and Avihu lacked. They were on running mode, on pursuing mode, trying to advance and advance. On one hand, it's good. It's amazing, but it's not complete. The complete level of wisdom is to know that we don't know. Tachlit ha'yediyah de lo neda. The goal of wisdom is to know how much we don't know. That's the goal. In other words, knowing is one thing, but not knowing is a higher level. And when you accept the not knowing, you are ready to reach the higher level, the next level of knowing. And it's never ending. There's knowing, not knowing, knowing, not knowing. It's endless levels. But always the goal of this present level of knowing that you do know is to get to the next level. And this is what was lacking with Nadav and Avihu. By not being married, they didn't have that haltage that the wife provides. Number two, that the sages say that they came in shtuye yain, they were drunk. Drunk means tipsy. Tipsiness means that the mind is unsettled. And for the mind to perceive the infinite light, it has to be settled. So that their minds were in running format, indicates, and they didn't have a breakers on their mind, is similar, and according to their level, there was a high tzaddikim, obviously. According to their high level, it's considered as if they were drunk. They were shtuye yain, because the imbalancement of a mind when drunk is similar to a mind that doesn't have breakers. A mind that's pursuing more Gemara, more Zohar, more Kabbalah, more Torah, more. But without the haltage, the stopping, the breakers. So in a sense, that mind is in danger. It can crash. And that's the idea of a drunken mind. Shtuyayim. Number 3, that they ruled the halacha in front of the Rav. That's also, who would do that? Who would have the audacity to rule a halacha in front of the Rebbe? If not someone whose mind also is imbalanced, okay? The imbalance of the mind, person feels, I know, it's so clear to me. So they jump in and rule a halacha in front of the Rav because I know the halacha, it's so clear. But all this is a blemish. It's an impairment. It's something wrong, okay? Again, Nadav and Avihu were outstanding tzaddikim, and yet the Torah gives them this blame, that they have these blemishes. So Rav Nosson says that this concept of being able to take a break in order to have Yishuv Adat is so fine and such a delicate issue that even the greatest of tzaddikim can fall and blemish from this. Rav Nosson just brings an example from Shimon and Levi, the brothers of Yosef HaTzadik, and they were for sure outstanding tzaddikim. No one in the world is going to doubt that Shimon and Levi were tzaddikim, and yet they felt that Yosef HaTzadik had to be killed. He was chayav mitah. He was deserving of the death penalty. What in the world? Great tzaddikim, but they had a blemish, dak min adak, Rav Nosson says. A very, very refined blemish that distorted their whole perspective and seeing that he's liable death penalty. And then from that emanated the blemish of their 2 descendants, which Rashi brings down in the blessing or the curse of Yaakov to Shimon and Levi, right? He says, "Besodam al tavo nafshi bikalam al besodam al techad nafshi bikalam al." Forgot the exact wording. I'm sorry, but he said regarding what's going to happen with Zimri, who is a descendant of Shimon, and what's going to happen with Korach, who is the descendant of Levi. I don't want to be there. I don't be involved in their machloket, their strife against Moshe Rabbeinu. And by them, there was a real blemish. Zimri, being a Torah scholar, and yet he wanted to permit immorality in public by being with Cosby in public. Korach, it was so clear he wanted honor. He was after honor, personal honor. The first says it himself. Who are you, Moshe and Aaron, to take the honor, and then you give the next honor to Aaron? I should be next in line. I'm the son of the next father, the next brother of our Amram, Yitzhar, Uziel. I'm the next in line, a descendant of the next in line. I should be next. And you don't do that? Hareini cholek alecha. Like Rashi says, I'm going to be opposed against you. Okay? There was clear opposition, and it was foolish to call them big tzaddikim. They were Talmid Chacham, they were sages. Korach was a Torah scholar. Zimri was a Torah scholar. He was a Nasi, he was a prince of the tribe. And yet they blemished also. So Rav Nosson shows that this blemish, without having a settled mind, is so bad, is so severe, that it has major ramifications in life. That's why a person should strive for Yishuv Hadat, settled mind. But the settling of the mind only comes if you have this balance of running and returning. And that was reflected in what was missing, what was lacking in Nadav and Avihu. Now, more than this, they offered Ketoret. Now, Ketoret, Rabbi Nachman says, is something so big. Ketoret, Yesamach Lev. Ketoret has the power to activate joy. And when joy is activated, that is the prerequisite for having a settled mind. To be able to have the mind settled, meaning to have the bounces and the breakers and to take it properly, to take the setback and the waiting and the halts in a proper manner, the prerequisite for that is simcha. And Rabbi Nachman teaches the Ketoret activates that. So you would think, there's a big question here. If Nadav and Avihu, at the end of the day, they offered Ketoret, they just that they weren't commanded to do so, they weren't obligated at the time, but they offered Ketoret, so you would think the Ketoret would protect them from being damaged. But the answer is no. That even the Ketoret has its limitations. Ketoret, when offered at the right time for the right reason, when a person, the Kohen, offers it in the right time, or when we recite it in the right time, which is Shacharit and Mincha, or like doing the right thing, doing the Ketoret with the right intent to come to joy, okay, then it can activate a positivity and open up the door for the infinite light. But in the case of Nadav and Avihu, since they were already not married and they were only in the pursuit of knowledge, so that shows automatically that they weren't after simcha. They weren't after joy. Because joy is someone who's appreciative of what he has, recognizes his setbacks, and has a major sense of humility. Whereas Nadav and Avihu, again, these are great tzaddikim, dak min dak, refined of a refined blemish, that they went ahead without permission, showing a type of haughtiness. It's hard to say this about big tzaddikim, but a type of a firm attitude, but without submission to the command of Moshe Rabbeinu. So that is considered a blemish, and then the Ketoret cannot help. Ketoret helps when you're doing it based on the guidelines and instructions of the tzaddikim. When the tzaddikim tell us Ketoret is to activate the simcha, which is needed, and you do it out of that, then the Ketoret works. Even today, recitation of the Ketoret. And back then, all the more so in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, when the Kohanim were doing the Ketoret every day in the morning and afternoon, we're doing it because Hashem commanded Moshe that this is what has to be done, period. And not out of their own intention, like was the case of Nadav and Avihu. With all this, we see that a person needs balance at every stage of life. Okay? It's not easy, because normally the way of a Jew, especially someone who's doing tshuva or a convert, they see the light, they want to run right into it because they're fleeing from darkness. It's true, but on the other hand, it's not complete. The completion is having a settled mind. That's the key for perceiving godliness in life. And life itself teaches a person with all the setbacks to keep on waiting and waiting and waiting. And in the meantime, while he's waiting, he builds his mind to be prepared to receive light from the infinite light, shining him clarity and guidance in life. We should be zoche to learn from Nadav and Avihu, and to be patient, and to take things properly. Also to value the idea of marriage. What marriage offers is that the wife's job is to put the breakers on the husband, and also the danger of drinking. Rabbi Nachman was very against drinking. The only time of the year that he gave full force, a full green light, was on Purim. And we have the 4 cups, of course, of Pesach, and we have Kiddush and Havdalah. But other than that, very against optional drinking just to be in a married mood. The idea of intoxication in order to advance to a high level of happiness and freedom, he wasn't so for that. He was more for that a person with his own efforts build to get that attitude and work on it, using the advice that he gave to be happy, B'ezrat Hashem. We should learn from all this, and we should, B'ezrat Hashem, take it easy and advance with caution. Shabbat Shalom Umburach.